In the summer of 859, shapes appeared on the horizon off the Moroccan coast that had no business being there. Long, narrow vessels with high curved prows slid across the water like blades. Their sails were striped in unfamiliar colors. Their hulls carried rows of shields. Their silhouettes belonged to a world of ice, stone, and northern mist, not the warm southern sea where Islamic fleets had ruled unchallenged for centuries. Watchmen standing in coastal towers stared in silence, their eyes struggling to reconcile what they saw with everything they believed about distance, power, and the nature of the world. These were not merchants, not pilgrims, not pirates. They were Northmen, warriors from lands where winter lasted half the year, where the sun barely climbed above the horizon, where seas froze and forests replaced fields. Men whose ancestors had never seen Africa now stood on deck staring toward its coast. By the time Neker's authorities understood that this was not a rumor or a mirage, but a military force, Viking boots were already striking sand. The harbor fell before noon. The palace fell before night. And when the ships departed, heavy with treasure and captives, they left behind something more powerful than gold. They left terror. They left shock. They left a wound in the idea of safety itself. By the middle of the 9th century, the Mediterranean was not merely a sea, it was a political system. From Gibraltar to Syria, from Sicily to the African coast, Muslim fleets controlled the waters with confidence forged through generations of dominance. The Umayyads and Al-Andalus held the western basin. The Abbasids oversaw the east. Between them stretched a network of emirates, ports, and dynasties bound together by trade, diplomacy, and naval power. Christian kingdoms still held fragments of coastline and fortified islands, but their fleets no longer ruled the sea. Byzantium remained a naval power, but even Constantinople negotiated cautiously with states that could close trade routes or raid coasts with ease. For anyone living along the Mediterranean shore in 859, the idea that a non-Muslim force could strike deep into these waters was not merely unlikely. It was unthinkable. Neker was built within this assumption. The emirate rested where the Rift Mountains met the sea, overlooking fertile valleys and vital trade routes linking inland Africa to Mediterranean markets. It was not an imperial capital, but it was wealthy. Grain, oil, textiles, gold, slaves, all passed through its ports and markets. Its rulers traced their legitimacy to Idris ibn Abdullah, descendant of the Prophet through Hassan. That lineage brought religious prestige as well as political authority. Pilgrims passed through its gates. Scholars taught in its mosques. Diplomats moved through its court. But Neker's power faced inward, not outward. Its military was built for land war, for tribal uprisings, for rival dynasties, for caravan protection and mountain conflicts. It had walls. It had cavalry. It had spears and archers. It did not have a navy, and it had no reason to think it needed one. The Straits of Gibraltar were considered a natural barrier. Muslim fleets patrolled them. Currents were dangerous. Winds unpredictable. The distance from Scandinavia to Morocco was immense. Vikings raided England. They struck Ireland. They sailed into Francia's rivers. But Africa? The Mediterranean? Impossible. So when fishermen reported strange ships to the west, long hulls, square sails, shield-lined sides, officials listened politely and dismissed them. Smugglers used odd vessels. Pirates tested defenses. Traders came from strange ports. Nothing to fear. Then more reports came. Dozens of ships. Moving east. Not attacking. Not drifting. Advancing. Now the descriptions matched. Now the witnesses agreed. These were warships. By the time Neker began taking the threat seriously, the time for effective response had already vanished. Messages to Cordoba would take days. Mobilizing even a small fleet would take weeks. Alliances required negotiation, and the ships were already close. The emir reinforced the coastal garrison slightly, ordered watchtowers alert, sent inquiries to neighbors, and waited, because the world had always worked a certain way, and because no one survives by believing in every impossible thing. Far to the north, this expedition had begun not with madness, but with calculation. 2 men led it. Hastein, a veteran raider whose name already echoed across Frankish lands, and Björn Ironside, son of Ragnar, bearer of legend and ambition. They assembled 62 ships and thousands of warriors along the Atlantic coast. The Viking world was changing. Early raids had brought immense wealth, but success breeds resistance. Fortifications rose. Armies adapted. Rivers were guarded. Surprise faded. Plunder became harder. Risk rose. Return fell. So they chose a new direction. South, toward wealth undefended, toward coasts unprepared, toward a world that did not yet fear them. The Mediterranean was not forbidden. It was simply unclaimed by Vikings. Reaching it required passing through a deadly gate, the Straits of Gibraltar. Rather than charging blindly, they probed. They raided Iberian ports, captured sailors, studied patrol routes, learned currents, tracked gaps. And when the moment came, they passed through at night in scattered groups, invisible in darkness. By the time Muslim fleets realized what had happened, the Northmen were already inside. They struck islands, small ports, outlying towns, testing, learning, spreading confusion. Then they turned south, toward Neker. The city saw them only when they were already there. Dozens of ships, coordinated, disciplined, an army afloat. The council argued. Negotiation? Defense? Appeals for help? The debate took hours. The Vikings needed one night. They landed at dawn. 3,000 men came ashore in waves. Shield walls formed instantly. Archers positioned behind. Units advanced inland with practiced efficiency. Neker's defenders were brave. They were also hopelessly outmatched. They had trained for cavalry, for sieges, for tribal war. Not for this. Not for shield walls that moved like creatures. Not for axes designed to break shields and men alike. The first defensive line collapsed within an hour. The gates followed. Axes rose and fell. Wood shattered. Iron bent. The city opened. Street fighting followed, brutal, chaotic, inevitable. The palace fell by midday. The emir was captured alive. Alive, because dead men pay no ransom. Then came the extraction. Treasuries emptied. Markets stripped. Mosques looted. Homes searched. Captives chosen. Not randomly, but carefully. By afternoon, the fleet was loaded. By sunset, it was gone. Behind it lay smoke, silence, and a city trying to understand what had happened. Neker would rebuild. Its walls still stood. Its people survived. But something fundamental had broken. The belief that distance protected. The belief that power was stable. The belief that the world obeyed its own rules. Ransom was paid. Defenses expanded. Navies built. Watchtowers multiplied. Across the Islamic world, alarms sounded. Patrols increased. Fortresses strengthened. But the truth could not be undone. The Mediterranean had been opened. The Vikings had proven that no shore was unreachable, that no city was truly safe, and that sometimes history is not changed by empires, but by men willing to sail where no one else dares, and by cities that discover, too late, that safety is only ever temporary. Distance is only ever an illusion, and the horizon always hides what will change the world.